Para Donald Trump no fue suficiente humillarse una vez ante el presidente irlandés, sino que tuvo que hacerlo 2 veces, y esta vez lo hizo durante un discurso en su oficina oval, en el cual pasó la mayor parte del tiempo mintiendo y luego burlándose de los molinos de viento, para luego continuar mintiendo de nuevo y después quejarse de su propia corrupción. Tanto así que la sala se quedó increíblemente en silencio mientras que Donald Trump de verdad luchaba por leer y exponía su propia corrupción. Vamos a entrar en todo esto con una entrevista con la vicegobernadora de Illinois, Juliana Stratton, quien se está postulando para el Senado de los Estados Unidos. Alguien que necesitamos ahora para luchar en contra de Donald Trump. Pero antes de empezar con esto, quiero empezar con esta locura de discurso que empezó con Donald Trump hablando de la economía que él mismo ha estallado.
Won't be much longer. It's moving along fast. We're way ahead of schedule. Did you know that, Mr. Speaker? I'm trying to save a lot of money by being ahead of schedule. We're way ahead of schedule. Nobody would have thought, somebody, a great war historian told me today, nobody would have thought you could do that much damage in that little time, 2 weeks. But we're way ahead. But we had prior to that, and really, I guess you could say after that, but prior to that, and it'll bounce back so fast, the oil prices will drop like a rock, and the economy is so powerful, so strong. And, you know, we hit 50,000 on the Dow. Think of that, 50,000. I was told you'll never hit 50,000, not for the first 3 years. Maybe at the end of the 4th year, you might be able to hit it. We hit it in the first year. And we then hit 7,000 on the S&P, and that was even more of a long shot, Steve. That was a chance that they said you couldn't do that. That was harder than 50 on the Dow. 7,000 on the S&P. We hit that before the end of the first year. And all of those things. And then I said to myself, well, we're doing great.
¿Adelantado a lo programado en qué? Donald Trump todavía no ha compartido cuáles son las intenciones reales de esta guerra ilegal. Presumir de la economía que has estallado precisamente no es una buena forma de convencer a todo el mundo. Yo no sé, Donald Trump, qué está presumiendo el mundo si de verdad él no nos ha ayudado a ahorrar nada. Por lo contrario, gracias a Donald Trump, Estados Unidos ha gastado decenas de miles de millones de dólares. Pero ese no es el dinero que le importa a Donald Trump. El dinero que le importa a Donald es el dinero que ha podido utilizar para su propio beneficio, para poder estafar y adjudicarse millones de dólares a su propio bolsillo. Y saben, Donald Trump habló de esto abiertamente en relación con Irlanda. Y en este clip que les voy a mostrar, él describe qué tan enfocado está con sus campos de golf. Miren, por favor.
Nice place. I love Ireland. In fact, we're going to have the Irish Open at a property that happens to be owned by yours truly, but I have nothing to do with it. I own it, but I don't even like to talk to my son. He says, Dad, we're doing great with the I'm allowed to run it, but I don't choose to. Dad, we're doing great. Eric calls up. He's doing a good job. Do you like Eric? I think so, right? Who doesn't like Eric? But he calls up, Dad, we're doing a great job in Ireland. What's going on? Well, we're doing this and that. I said, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. Of course, if we were treated badly, I'd let him know very quickly. But I think you are very proud of what's been done over there by the Trump organization, right? It's one of the greatest places, one of the greatest golf courses in the world, and it's an honor to hold the Irish Open there. It's coming up very shortly, and it's a great honor. Thank you. And say hello to Rory McIlroy and all of those great players, because they are truly great talents, and they're wonderful people, friends of mine.
Pero saben, han habido tantos tratos corruptos que involucran a la familia de Donald Trump, y no solo a Donald Trump, sino que también a sus hijos, por ejemplo, Eric Trump y Don Jr. Ellos pudieron abrir un negocio exageradamente rápido en Vietnam, saltándose todas las leyes. Todo esto, claro, porque su papi domina los aranceles. Don Jr., uno de los hijos de Donald Trump, está en la junta de Koshi y de Poly Market, sobre los cuales el gobierno retiró todas las investigaciones. A pesar de que Arizona acaba de lanzar una indagatoria, está presentando ahora cargos contra estos mercados de predicción por ser ilegales. Se sabe, se refiere a todos estos lugares como casinos o lugares en los que se apuestan, que son sumamente ilegales. Pero saben, Donald Trump y su familia han ganado muchísimo dinero a base de estos negocios. Así que obviamente él está muy feliz por esto. Tan feliz que está dispuesto a presumir de ello. Así de descarado es. Donald Trump piensa que si lo hace en público, está bien. Y también cree que si esto es en público, a los medios esto no les va a interesar. Y esto en parte lastimosamente es cierto, razón por la cual más a menudo tenemos que pedir rendiciones de cuentas. Y también tenemos que hacer que los medios rindan cuentas cuando estamos hablando de este declive cognitivo de Donald Trump, el cual pudo demostrar aquí también.
It's a lot Our national anthem itself was signed by the sight of the Star-Spangled Banner waving over the fort named for the son of Ireland, Fort McHenry. When Americans ventured west on the Oregon Trail, they were guarded by troops stationed at Fort Riley, named for the Irish-American warrior who President Grant called the finest specimen of physical manhood I've ever looked upon.
Ron Filipowski comentó sobre este clip de Donald Trump escribiendo: primero, demencia. Donald Trump ni siquiera puede leer su propio discurso. Luego, piensa que la cita era sobre Grant, cuando era una cita de Grant. Donald Trump de por sí ya era una persona tonta, pero a raíz de su declive cognitivo, esto ha hecho que se vuelva radicalmente tonto. Y saben, aparte de esto también está sumamente desconectado, razón por la cual yo he dicho varias veces que es muy importante que entren al Congreso demócratas para que le pongan fin, para que puedan parar todas estas decisiones ilógicas de Donald Trump. Existen actualmente muchos demócratas corporativos que están postulándose para las primarias en todo el país, que ellos, claro, felizmente pretenderían luchar en contra de Donald Trump, pero claramente ellos están a favor de financiar su guerra ilegal para poder darles más poder a los oligarcas que lo pusieron en ese puesto. Esta no es Juliana Stratton.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining me. I think your race right now, this Senate primary, is maybe the most watched Democratic primary happening right now. And I think that's for good reason. And I think it's because it really is defining what the future of the party is going to look like, who Democrats will and will not take money from, who we want in our leadership. And I think that all begins where I want to start, and that's with Chuck Schumer, right? It is not just enough to elect new, younger Democrats with a different vision, but Democrats who want different leadership. You've spoken out about Chuck Schumer. For our audience who doesn't know you, can you let them know what you think our leadership needs to look like if you were elected to the United States Senate?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've made it clear that I would not support Chuck Schumer as leader of the Democratic caucus, because I think right now what I'm hearing from voters all across the state of Illinois is that they are fed up. They're fed up with what's happening in Washington. They're fed up with, think business as usual and the status quo, and feeling like no matter, who's in office, their lives aren't getting better. And I can say that they are telling me very clearly that they are looking for fighters and not folders. They want people who are going to stand up, fight for what's important. I see my role as a senator to, of course, pass common sense, good legislation to improve the lives of the people I represent. Certainly to have a bully pulpit to speak very clearly and with a loud, clear voice about what we should be looking for and how we're going to hold this administration accountable. But there's also a real desire and certainly a role that I want to help take on to push our party to be more courageous, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for leaders who will meet this moment. We do not have a normal president. He's not even a normal person. So why are we kind of going about things with business as usual? We need real fighters in Washington. And I'm proud that I can look people in the eye on this campaign trail and let them know that I will be that fighter.
Yeah, especially when it comes to issues that have Donald Trump has specifically targeted your state and your constituents on. I think about the confirmation vote coming on Markwayne Mullin soon, and it's already been reported that Chuck Schumer's not really going to be whipping against it. You would be a no on Markwayne Mullin, I'm sure, right?
Not only a no on Markwayne Mullin, but I've made it very clear I will not confirm any Donald Trump nominee or appointee, whether this is to the cabinet or to the Supreme Court or anywhere else. He is not making any decisions in the best interest of the American people, and I would be a no across the board.
Why do you think Democrats in the Senate, though, continue to vote for these nominees? Do you think that they think they're going to be able to get concessions out of Donald Trump? It just seems like a tired project of trying to work across the aisle when I don't know what they see anymore. Maybe, John Thune not wanting to break the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act. They think they can keep him happy for a little longer. I just see it as a wasted time and wasted energy, and more importantly, hurting your constituents. Why do you think they continue to do that?
Well, let me just give a little background about me. I mean, I'm a lawyer, and for 2 decades of my career, I had an alternative dispute resolution practice. So I was a mediator, and I did a lot of work of bringing people from different perspectives and different ideas to the table to try to solve problems. It is a skill that has served me very well as an elected official. I taught negotiation skills across the country, so I know how to negotiate. But here's what I also know. You cannot negotiate with people who do not come to the table in good faith.
No.
You cannot sit at the table across from someone who has no intention of telling the truth, has no intention of doing what's right, or even advancing the interest of their party or the people that they represent. Donald Trump is a wannabe dictator, and his main goal is to stroke his own ego and to become wealthier while he's in office and help make his friends wealthier. That is not about negotiating what is the best outcome for the American people. So I say all that to say, I'm not sure what the motivation is. I mean, I certainly know that the goal should be to try to get things done and to try to get to a place where we can. You know, I'm not somebody, I've been a legislator. I know what it's like to work across the aisle and try to get things done in a bipartisan basis. When I was a legislator, I got 10 bills passed in my first term. All of them were passed on a bipartisan basis, many unanimously. But that was 10 years ago. And what we're seeing right now with Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, they are not looking for anybody to work with them. They are looking to distract. They're looking to block progress. They're looking to take us backwards. And I think we need to bring the energy that says, well, we're not going to go along with that. We're going to stand up and fight.
Well, you talk about Donald Trump enriching himself. That's kind of been the goal for the wealthiest 25 people in this country through the entire administration. They're doing really well. Of course, someone who comes to mind, Peter Thiel, has had a lot of success placing his little government plant and JD Vance in the White House to make sure that he can continue getting those big fat checks. And one of your Democratic opponents is taking money from executives at Palantir. This has been a big story through the campaign, talking about this like very dystopian, like it seems like it's straight out of a dystopian novel, corporation that is watching us and, you know, making all of these very strange partnerships in the AI space to get more data and facial recognition. And it's just all very, I think we could just say bluntly, scary shit that we do not need to be involved with, especially as they are helping Donald Trump's thugs, the very thugs that came in to your state. How do we communicate to Democrats, or how do we make sure that we are not electing people who are taking money from the very same executives and companies and places that Donald Trump is enriching and have helped Donald Trump get to the White House?
Well, we have to be very clear of telling the story of what is exactly happening and the impact of all of this money and what it does in terms of why people are so fed up with Washington right now. You know, I said earlier that there are so many people who are feeling like, I don't care who's there, my life isn't changing. People get elected and then they forget who elected them and what we should be focused on. So, for example, like right now in my race, certainly as we have closed the gap and now have 2 consecutive polls that show that I'm leading in this race, our election day is Tuesday, March 17th. So we're right in the home stretch. But I'm the #1 target in the country right now. The #1 target in the country of these MAGA-aligned crypto super PACs that are supporting my opponent, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, and they are putting $10 million of attack ads against me. #1 target in the country. And I can say that, you know, this is an example of why are they coming at me? I mean, people have asked me the question, why are they targeting you, Juliana? Well, they're targeting me because they know that this campaign and everything that I am doing and what I will do in the Senate is about standing up for the people and not corporate special interest. It's why I'm not taking any corporate PAC money in this race. And it's an example of they are trying to prop up the person that will continue this broken system. And what I think sometimes voters, we need to make sure voters better understand is when that system continues, when the leaders in Washington continue to get rewarded, when the corporate special interests who are only focused on their bottom line, not doing what's best for the American people, it's sort of this sick cycle that just keeps perpetuating. And we have to do something to change it. I'm proud that I've been endorsed by End Citizens United because of my stance
Mhm.
that I want to end Citizens United, not taking corporate PAC money and getting corporate PAC money out of politics, but also, and ending, of course, banning congressional stock trading. I support all of that, and I'm going to fight for all of that when I get to the Senate. But I think it's just, they're going to push the people that will help keep that broken system in place. And when we have those who are out to disrupt that system, who want to change things, then this is what we get. We get $10 million of attack ads to try to keep us out. And I'm going to stay focused for these next several days to make sure I keep talking about the bold ideas for change for the people that I intend to represent in the Senate.
I know, nobody likes $10 million in attack ads spent against them. It certainly can't be a ton of fun, but don't you kind of also like the fact that you can just point to the spending against you and say, these are special interests. They don't want me in office. I think they're also spending $10 million kind of on a message for you, and it is a $10 million message. Do you want to lean into that? Is that something that you just think you want to talk about more now?
Well, what I certainly, I say the exact same words that you just said. I say, it doesn't feel great. You don't want to be on the other side. Nobody loves having $10 million.
So 10 million, 10 million is a lot of dollars.
Yeah. And people are seeing, they're like, I saw all those ads against you. And I'm like, okay, I am not, because I'm on the campaign trail. But what it does mean is that they are panicking. It means that they are threatened by me, and they know that I have the message. I mean, how did we get to a point when we have an opponent who has spent $25 million on television, and now I am leading in the polls? How does it happen that somebody who for the last 10 years has been raising money, not working on behalf of Illinoisans, but raising money to run for Senate one day? He's done that for 10 years until this seat became open. And I think about all of that money, and here I am, and I am now leading in the polls. And so, yes, it does make me say, well, this is a good thing that they are threatened by this message. But I also want to just kind of go back to what you said earlier, that this is an example of not just, it didn't just start with this crypto money. Congressman Krishnamurthy has taken millions of dollars of corporate PAC dollars, and he's also taken money from an author of Project 2025, certainly an ICE contractor, the CTO of Palantir, who he has called for 7 consecutive years asking for money, including in the summer of 2025, when ICE was in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois terrorizing our communities. And I always say this, and I want to make it clear, I want to abolish ICE, and I'm making that's period. I want to abolish ICE, period. I don't think that this agency can be reformed, whereas my opponent wants to thank ICE and voted to thank ICE, voted to fund ICE, and takes money from an ICE contractor. There's a real distinction here. They don't want someone like me in the Senate, all of these MAGA-aligned crypto super PACs. They want somebody who's going to, who can be bought and paid for, and they know that I can't be.
Yeah. And of course, I want to talk a little bit more about you and your campaign. And I think we just, on that note, have to talk about your opponent just a little bit. What do you think is kind of, to you, the most, and there's been a lot of revelations about his time in Congress, his fundraising, some of the way that he treats his staff. But what do you think has been the most damning indictment? Is it the money from Palantir? Is it the refusal to call for the abolishment of ICE? Is it the constant focus on fundraising? What to you says, okay, if you just gave me this one line, that tells me you do not have what it takes to be a United States Senator and represent the state of Illinois?
Congressman Krishnamurthy has spent 10 years in Congress. And during that time, he has passed 4 bills that he was the lead sponsor. And those 4 bills were to rename post offices. Now, I can tell you that means whether there was a Democrat in the White House or a Republican in the White House, those are the 4 bills that he has passed as the lead sponsor, when there have been so many critical issues that the people of Illinois and Americans have been dealing with over these last 10 years, especially with 2 Donald Trump presidencies. So what I always say is, when you look at those 10 years, you now want to get a promotion when you haven't gotten anything done except raise money so that you could run for Senate. That's not a leader that's going to stand up to Donald Trump. I'm proud of my record and what I've been able to do as a state rep and as lieutenant governor. Governor Pritzker and I have delivered big things for the people of Illinois. We've raised wages, created thousands of good paying jobs, put Illinois on a path to a clean energy future. We have made Illinois an island for reproductive freedom in the Midwest. That's delivering for people, and that's the blueprint that I want to take to Washington. I'm not going to just sit there and raise money and not get things done. And by the way, let me just say, I'm sure that the people for whom those post offices were named probably were very worthy of I mean that. I mean, sincerely, they were worthy of that honor. I'm sure they were important people to be honored, but that can't be the extent of your record. And then you come and say, now I deserve a promotion to the Senate.
Well, and it kind of represents, not that I want to get into some other Senate races here, because I don't need, us making headlines on what your thoughts are in Minnesota, but it makes me kind of think of someone like Angie Craig, who holds up a little sign saying impeach Kristi Noem, but voted for the Lake and Riley Act, right? Democrats just like doing publicity is not what we need right now. We need big, bold structural change. And that's where I want to close with two different, kind of questions about your platform and where you think the party needs to be moving. Bernie Sanders and Representative Ro Khanna just recently came out with a new plan to reshape the way that America has been so broken because of the wealth gap that we see that only continues to grow. Also, as kind of AI and the crypto and billionaires and the oligarchs are just ravaging our country, if we can be real about that. 5% annual wealth tax, investments in working families, in childcare and healthcare, and the expansion of Medicare and Medicaid. This is a big, bold structural change proposal. I don't know if you've been busy on the campaign trail. I don't know if you've had time to look at some of this, but what are your thoughts on a proposal like that, what Ro and Bernie are suggesting?
Well, the one thing that people are asking for over and over again is for us to be bold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you something that I have been just so surprised by on the campaign, especially listening to my opponent. It's almost this mindset that's coming out of Washington that, well, it's not possible for us to do this, or we don't have the votes, or we're not going to get the other side to join in. And it's almost like this minimalist mentality when we're talking about what people need. And so when I think about what I guess I put my thumb up and it gave me a reaction. But what I
they're watching us. It's not good.
Yeah. My platform is give the people what they want. It's not about what some consultant tells you or some talking point. What do the people want? And I spend every single day crisscrossing this state, this entire campaign, the only candidate that has represented the entire state. And here's what the people want. They want me to fight for not just a minimum wage, but a livable wage. So I'm fighting for a $25 livable wage at the federal level, a minimum wage of $25, because people are trying to make ends meet. We raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour in Illinois, and I'm proud of that fact. It was the first big bill that Governor Pritzker and I got signed into law. But $15 an hour is $31,200 a year. And it's why people are working 2 and 3 jobs. Let's give people enough to take care of themselves and their families, have a little to save for the future, and spend in our small businesses. We need to pay the people. And the second thing is I'm going to fight for Medicare for all, because too many people are just deciding, do I pay my bills or do I go to the doctor? Yeah. That is a false choice. It should not be a choice in this country. And yet I hear my opponents say, well, Congressman Krishnamurthy says, well, it's a nice idea, but, well, Congressman Krishnamurthy is also the recipient of the top recipient of big pharma and from actors in the healthcare industry from, that money. And a lot of that money is money from donors that have been spending millions lobbying against Medicare for all. So we need to think big. And of course, I want to see us give middle-class families a tax break and pay for it by a tax increase on those making $1 million or more. So yes, we need to be thinking big. We need to be thinking bold, and we need to stop. We have to elect leaders who believe bigger is possible. We did that in Illinois. We've done that in Illinois. We're the example that you can do big things and stand up against this president and call for things that are really going to improve people's lives. That's the kind of leadership that I'm going to bring.
Yeah, the obeying in advance and the refusal to think big, it has been just so damaging to the brand of the party, not just the brand, but like our ability to get anything done. And, especially, and I want to close here as we were spending, what is it, like $11 billion in the first 3 days of Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. I don't know how anyone anymore can say that with Pete Hegseth, like spending $3 trillion or $3 billion. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be surprised if it was $3 trillion, but $3 billion on like makeup for his cable hits or whatever he was doing at the Pentagon the other month. I don't know why anyone is saying that we don't have the money to invest in America. Again, Donald Trump is spending it on his illegal war. This is something that has had even, I think, senators who maybe wouldn't have before, like Mark Warner, talking about the way that Israel has influenced American foreign policy. Chris Murphy flat out said, there's a reason that we went to war. And Marco Rubio conceded this. J.D. Vance kind of conceded this. Do you think that, as I believe most Democrats do, we need to be rethinking our relationship? People call it a partnership. It doesn't feel like a very good partnership with the state of Israel.
Well, let me say what I've always said, that first of all, we are seeing the impact of the failed leadership of not just Donald Trump, but I've been very clear in my position about Prime Minister Netanyahu and what he's doing and how we're watching the two of them dragging us into a war that nobody has asked for. And you just spoke to that. And I know that I've made it clear that I'm not going to support any supplemental funding for this war. I don't believe that, either of them are working in the best interest of what I want to see happen. I've been clear about my position that my focus is making sure that there's a clear path to sustain peace in that region and that it allows for, a two-state solution with both safety and self-determination for Israelis and Palestinians. And I want to see that. And I don't believe that either one of them have those interests at the forefront of what they're doing. So I've made it very clear. And I certainly don't think that this war that they're dragging us into it's an example of their failed leadership. And I'm not going to support that.
No, certainly not. I think failed leadership is kind of the theme of the conversation that we've had, but I think that's why we need to get your real leadership into the United States Senate. If folks in this kind of closing bit of the campaign want to be supportive in making that happen, where can they go? Let's get the plug in there. We're going to have it below, but give us the plug.
Well, we have just a few more days. I think we're 4 days out now. Election day is March 17th here in Illinois. And I want to give the people what they want. And if you believe in that mission and you believe in that vision, go to julianastratton.com and you can sign up to join the team. And just thanks so much for this opportunity to share a little bit about what I plan to do when I get to the United States Senate.
And I'm excited for when you're there. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Y bueno amigos, acabamos de llegar al final del video, espero de todo corazón que les haya gustado y más que todo que lo hayan entendido. Si fue así, por favor háganmelo saber en los comentarios. Recuerden que si les gusta contenido de política estadounidense, les gusta saber qué está pasando exactamente en el país, les va a encantar suscribirse al canal, ya que subo videos como estos todos los días. Literalmente todos los días, subo de 7 a 8 videos diarios. Si no quieren perderse ninguno de estos videos, les recomiendo que aparte de suscribirse, activen la campanita, ya que activando esta campanita van a hacer que cada vez que yo suba un video, YouTube se los notifique. Les recuerdo también que mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido a informarlos diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.